Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Ring, SP Saturn the 7th, and you are watching Anime Egotists. Enjoy!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where I'd like to think our omelets are pretty good, but I can't make omelets that well. They just turn into scrambled eggs.
I'm in the same boat.
Anyways, my name's Alex, and if you don't put anything in your oatmeal, like no sugar, raisins, or anything, I hate you. You're a terrible person.
Yeah, I don't even like oatmeal like with stuff in it, but it's better when it does have stuff in it at least. And I'm Richard.
That's correct. And remember, we're the anime egotists, so we don't talk about manga all that often, but at times, maybe we should.
Yeah, I'm not much of a manga reader. I've read a couple when I was younger, and I don't really own any, but I know a little bit about stuff that's changed as manga have come out and versus the anime.
That's correct. And 99% of the time with an anime, you have to start from the manga. I know sometimes it's the other way around, but we'll get to that. But we want to talk this week about what are some of the differences between manga and anime in certain cases. What makes people like the manga more? What makes the changes in the anime go, oh, that was actually a better idea? Just anything in regards to that.
Exactly. So it's just something that anyone who likes this form of media will have to deal with at some point, being told that, oh, this version is so much better than this version. So we decided that it was best to go over our feelings on it.
That's right. Let's begin.
All right. So the differences between anime and manga can be a lot to almost nothing when you look back at some stories.
Yeah, especially because you're catering to a different audience. So at times you're gonna have to make changes at certain points. Not everything in the manga is going to be there's a lot of cases censorship. A lot of stuff in manga is pretty heavy and grim, and in certain cases they might look at the anime and be like, "Yeah, we can't do that." Notable example in Soul Eater. I have the first volume of the Soul Eater manga and also Soul Eater not. The first page I opened to, let's just say I saw a lot more of Blair than I ever did in the anime. So, yeah, I could understand why they'd want to be like, let's temper this back a bit.
Yeah, I have a feeling I know what you're talking about again, it was kind of catered towards being a shonen towards a teenager audience. They really can't show what they show in the manga on the anime side because it's more easily accessible than I would say the manga itself would have been.
Yeah. Not only that, but a lot of her perverted antics are toned down, and based on another manga panel I saw, I'm like, oh, I understand why they never went this direction. But I guess in some cases, sticking with Soul Eater, a lot of people complain about the ending of the anime. We've kind of had our piece about it too, but spoiler alert, there's a lot of betrayal in the manga. A lot of betrayal, a lot of good guys getting brainwashed and deceived, and a lot of them end up dying. A good amount of people have told me that this is better, but also a good amount of people have said, with every betrayal, it kind of stops making sense. The shock appeal drops with every single one of them.
Yeah, I could see them being overdone because at least with the anime, it's kind of a build up, a slow mind control of Dr. Frankenstein throughout the entire second half of the series. It's like a slow fall into madness and under her control. But if everybody's doing it or half the cast is doing it, I can see it being way too much.
Yeah, and also it results in a lot of people dying, which we haven't really talked about it before, but death can be a really powerful thing in anime, but as I've said before, it's one of my hot takes. Killing characters just to kill them gets kind of exhausting.
I tend to agree. I do feel that anime that have these big epic battles, as I've said, should have some consequences. Some characters should have pass so that it feels like the stakes are real. And I'm not a big fan of oh, they're dead. oh, but guess what? 6 panels later, you find out that they're not because they're um, just because we don't want to kill someone off. So
Yeah. And in regards to that, apparently Black Star's father, or White Star, was killed by his rival Mifune in the anime, making it all the more interesting to see Black Star go up against Mifune in all those battles. In the manga, it's just like, no, but it's just, oh, these random people did it. So it makes their interactions all the more interesting in the anime.
yeah, I can see that. But wait, so I'm trying to think. You said it was the manga. His dad was killed by Mifune.
The anime.
And okay, I was getting confused there for a minute.
Yeah, and sadly, the show also ends at the manga ends at one point with Lord Death dying, and I understand for the purposes of the story it made sense, but I also never wanted it to get that way because Lord Death might have been my favorite character.
Yeah, he was probably the best dad of everybody in the entire series. So
That's not saying a whole lot, but if we've talked about an anime that we both enjoy. I want to get into one that I know you love and that I did a little bit of research for, Bleach.
okay,
All right, so I did a little bit of research, and one of the biggest things about Bleach, not the sword fighting, not the character development and the bonds and the heartwarming moments, the shipping. A lot of people have problems with it, and once again, there are going to be spoilers all over this video. Get over it. In the end of the manga, Ichigo and Orihime end up together, don't they?
yes, that's correct.
And Richard, you've been kind of vocal before that you actually prefer Ichigo and Rukia, and you've only seen the anime in regards to that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is, I did a little bit of research around now because I wanted to see, does Ichigo and Orihime make sense? Which one? And according to a lot of people, this is their take, so who knows whether it's right or not. When you read the manga, Ichigo and Orihime actually have a lot more build to it than in the anime. The anime doesn't give them nearly as much to work with. So in some cases, I can be a little more forgiving for the manga doing it. Now, that also kind of ties into, well, if they end up together in the anime too, won't it feel a lot more forced if it's not as built up? But we'll get into that in a little bit.
And I can understand that. I think there are definitely, from what I've seen, some scenes that are just played slightly differently that make the connection feel better between Orihime and Ichigo. Again, there's the stuff with like Ichigo running off to save Orihime, but he did this. But in the anime, he's done that now for both Rukia and Orihime, so it feels very similar in that case.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I'm being nice to Bleach because my memory on it is not nearly as good as yours is on it. This next anime, though, I can't really do the same though. Naruto.
Lots of filler, but okay.
Oh no, the filler honestly could be a topic on its own, but but from what I've seen of the manga, because I do have a good bit of the Naruto manga, Naruto and Hinata's actually built up pretty well. Hell, after Naruto beats Neji in that bullshit fight, hey, he says, "Yay, I won." I wonder what Hinata was thinking about it. He says that in the manga, because like Hinata getting thrashed by Neji like hurt him. It was really showed to hurt him in the manga. There were moments where he would constantly be thinking, is Hinata safe? Or in the manga, when Hinata practically dies, it's more emphasized when she fights pain. In the anime, however, they replace a good amount of those scenes with Sakura. I'm not even going to get into the rabbit hole of how I feel about Sakura. I'm not going to do that today. Hey, but the crazy thing is, there have been staff on the anime who have said, oh, we don't like Hinata as much. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But you're kind of betraying Kishimoto's work, and you're pissing off the audience when you're like, wow, Naruto and Hinata did nothing in the anime together, and now they're married.
Yeah. Okay, it feels like if that's the case, then they should have gone all in. If they're wanting to change it because they don't like that relationship, then change it. But don't build it up as if you're going to, and then turn around and say, oh, but we're still going to end it the same way as everything else.
Yeah, even so, there are it's revealed in the manga that Hinata is responsible for training her kids and making them stronger. You wouldn't know that based on the anime.
Yeah, no, because it's just been kind of implied that she's a housewife at this point.
Yeah, and that's also a problem. Not being a housewife is not necessarily a problem. I'm saying the people in the anime saying, "Oh, well, we're just going to do something different from the manga." Not even because you're like, "Oh, this might be a better story beat," but just because. I don't know. I feel like at some point you have to separate yourself in that regard. And after seeing all the examples I saw, I was kind of like, "Huh, I kind of like the Naruto anime a little bit less now."
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like these big changes, I guess when it comes to relationships, it leads to unfortunately a lot of animes ending differently because they're, I guess, not expecting things to continue, or they rush things to try to get to what they after they find out what the ending's going to be, so they can make a shorter version. Besides, even though the story's got a lot more build up to do.
Yeah, you got any examples of that? Because this one's gonna hurt me.
Yeah, well, the first one that comes to mind for me is the original ending to Blue Exorcist, the anime. They now, is this how it's going to end? Maybe, but I don't know. I've never read the manga, but I know that there's been two different arcs that have been released since then that are supposed to expand the story and actually are the canon part of it. And I think the most famous one, though, is of course the Tokyo Ghoul. I think it's the end of the first series. They completely rechanged the end, or maybe it's the second one. I there's again Tokyo Ghoul's another one that's got a whole bunch of season series that are all parts, but some are the continuation of the manga, some of the anime original stuff. So it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah, I understand in the sense they don't always know, so I want to try and give them a pass as to where let's just end the series where it is. But I guess my philosophy is if there's ever doubt, just do it the way the manga does it. Because that way, if it ever does come, if it never comes back, then people are like, well, you at least did your best to stay true to the source material. But if it ever does, you can just continue it from there.
Well, I think the issue with these two is that both the mangas were still going on and were not finished when the anime started airing. And rather than go on hiatus and then come back, they uh, did the endings however they felt like, which really screwed up how you would watch the anime.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree because a lot of cases I would rather see the original source material. This we've talked about before. I find the Zatch Bell manga and how it played out a lot better than how the anime ended, where it's just like, oh, well, we beaten these people. Zatch is going to face Brago, and we're not even going to show the ending of it. Awesome.
Yeah, from what I can tell and what I've seen of the manga, I can definitely agree on that with the Zatch Bell manga being better than the anime. And I think that, again, that's part of the reason the creator's been so strict with his creation since then.
Yeah, because hypothetically, let's say Zatch Bell 2 gets a manga. Sorry, Zatch Bell 2 gets an anime. Hey, and it gets announced for late next year. Let's just pretend. And
Mhm.
if that comes out, are we gonna have to go back and just watch the anime from there? Here because it's not a good way to send off the series. Would the original series get a remake? What would you have in some cases you have to stick the landing, and I understand why they couldn't, but jumping into that mess right into a potential Zatch Bell 2 anime, I can understand why it'd be head scratching.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so much content and so many characters that are such an integral part of the Zatch Bell series that I just can't think of they'd have to redo it, or at least do something that kind of wraps it up how they ended it in the manga, just so that there's no, how to put it, again, no confusion. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of how to put it. I guess you could stick with the original two seasons. The first two seasons, I think, follow close enough.
More or
It'd
less.
be that third season that has to really be fixed, I would say.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're giving a lot of hard time to the people working on on anime, but sometimes it works the other way around. Like you talked a little bit before about how sometimes you don't know if a series is gonna continue, so the anime ends in a certain way.
Yeah, a lot of times when it's you get these almost cliffhanger, but they're still wrap it up enough where it's like, okay, if this is the absolute end, I don't necessarily feel the worst about it.
Oh boy. We've done a list before about the worst anime conclusions to an anime. Hey, we're probably not going to do a manga centric list, but I do have a I haven't I've mentioned once or twice before the show Usegi Drop.
Yeah.
The one about the man who takes in, and I guess his grandfather has a kid and he dies, so he takes in the little girl.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned this one a few times.
Yeah, not very often, but still, but there's a reason for that. The anime ends on kind of a flat. I wouldn't say a flat note. It just kind of ends with the two of them realizing, hey, we have a lot to work to do as father and daughter, but we're getting better and we care about each other. It's a peaceful kind of sweet ending, and it's like we talked about before. It stopped because like the manga was still going on, so a lot of people were upset. But oh boy. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. The manga ends with them falling in love.
So he falls in love with his adoptive daughter, who is his aunt.
Yes?
Okay, so there's enough of that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they asked like the director of the anime specifically, they said, "So how do you feel about the manga ending?" And just reading the tone of his voice in the interview, it sounded like he said, "Well, it was certainly a decision." I'm like, I don't blame you, dude. You're trying your best to be professional, but I understand how you feel.
Yeah, I can definitely see why yeah, that one is again a controversial way to end a manga.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. But there's also this other show called I've talked about before, I've ranted about before, called Kumamiko. The manga continues with this girl with anxiety, and she's trying to get better at it, and she's trying to like grow as a person. The anime ends with her failing at that and everybody booing and ridiculing her, and she ends up worse than when she started. It got so bad that the mangaka said, "Hey, I appreciate everybody's hard work, but this was kind of a betrayal of what I wrote." I, in some cases, you have to really follow the author. Like you can't just make changes just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense because I guess unless he's supposed to trying to teach a specific lesson, but I don't know what that lesson would be if because it sounds like this even ends without like "don't try again" kind of nonsense, which is weird.
Yeah, it's sickening. Like I've said, it deserves a remake, and that girl deserves to be happy because that was infuriating to me. But there are some small changes from manga to anime that I feel like a lot of people harp on, but I don't necessarily care that much about. Like Naruto, Rock Lee's injuries. He's in the anime, he's already had his surgery right before the Sasuke retrieval squad leaves, and then he saves Naruto from Kimimaro. In the manga, he hasn't had his surgery yet, and once after they leave, he has it and he shows up. I understand to an extent because the manga makes it feel that much more badass that he recovers that quickly, but the anime makes it make a little more sense.
Yeah, he's kind of getting like his final checkup in a scene, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, and they also say, I believe they say sake in the manga, but they say elixir in the anime. I don't know what the problem is.
That's probably more of the English dub versus
Maybe.
the because I'm pretty sure they say sake in the subbed version.
Yeah, and then we all ran around in middle school saying, "Hey, who wants sake?" But it was just water. No wonder we got in trouble at school that day.
Another one that comes to mind, though, when it comes to changes between the manga and the anime is sometimes for pacing, for especially when it's a seasonal anime. The one that comes to mind for me is Food Wars. There's an entire mini arc between the final season and I think it's the third. I think there's 4 seasons total. That kind of brings in this one-off bad guy who's trying to take over a hot spring, and Soma and I think it's I can't remember who it is with him, defeat this guy, and save the hot spring, but he's part of the big bad group for the final arc, and he's supposed to be like the introduction to him. But that's it. But it could be done just as well by bringing them in the next when they literally start the next arc for the. I think it's called it's blue something. I think is the competition, and they're competing in that. So it's like it could be done for pacing. So when an anime has a lot more rapid pacing than than the manga has to have, sometimes that can happen. But it can also go the other way. I know that with manga you get a lot of, or anime you get a lot of filler to fill in for the while the manga gets ahead, which takes a little bit longer. So it's kind of a two-way street when it comes to timing for different stories.
Yeah, and as we've said before, like, filler is not inherently a bad thing. But as I've said before with certain things, when you start to stretch it out too much, it does get to the point where I'm like, I'm kind of just waiting for this to be over. In some cases, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I forgot it because they always make fun of like the big three: One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach being so filled with filler, and that there's so many different little extra arcs and stuff that they throw in them. But I forgot that there's something that's like 90% filler. It's like they're like 13 volumes of the manga, and it's gotten like hundreds of episodes, and it's mostly filler. So I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head.
Let's see. I'm looking at it, and there are a handful of anime. It's just like there's no filler whatsoever. I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but I have heard shows like Fairy Tail and Bleach even have a lot of filler too. And heck, to be, I guess, to be completely 100% honest, you could argue about 99% of Gintama is in fact filler, because it's entertaining filler, but it's filler nonetheless.
It's Detective Cohen. It's
that's
500 and 503 out of the 1,111 episodes is filler. So almost half of the anime is filler.
Oh, that's too much. That might be too much even for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think. So I've never seen it, but I hear good things about it. So I'm guessing even the filler is done well in Detective Cohen.
I'd like to hope so, but in some cases you get really weird instances where the anime actually comes out before the manga does.
Okay.
Yeah, like notably Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah. Pokemon Adventures is kind of a different beast, but there is an adaptation of the Pokemon manga and like of Ash and Friends Adventures, and it is noticeably different, but it does. I feel bad in a sense because I'd like to talk about it someday, but it's also kind of in the shadow of Pokemon Adventures, which kind of just dominates everything manga-wise.
Yeah, because I know vaguely of it, but whenever you type in Pokemon manga, you get whatever the adventure story is at the time.
Yeah, and to talk about Adventures a little bit, the stories are a lot more mature. Some of the humor is a little over the top. I don't. A lot of the characters feel more developed than certain Pokemon anime. And while they're not completely connected, I can understand why people would be like, "Yeah, I would rather read the manga than watch the anime," because the anime gets a little. I don't even know how the proper way to say it. Like, I can understand in some cases.
Yeah, I guess so. But you mentioned Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that later in the series, like in other ones? Because I know that the original one is based on the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, because that's where Season Zero and all that comes from.
Somewhat, like in some cases, but like I know at least GX, the anime, came out before the manga did. Like, and there are a lot of differences. Like I've talked before, Bastion. In the anime, his role decreases with each arc, but supposedly in the manga, he doesn't. In the manga, when they graduate, he's one of the top students, which makes me go, I really kind of wish we'd gotten this version. Or Chaz beats Jaden in the manga. There's a character named Jim Cook who's supposed to be a villain in the manga, which I actually prefer him in the anime because he's such a nice, cool guy. But I do, but there are a lot of differences, and it does make me go, maybe I should give the manga a chance at some point.
Hmm. Yeah, because I know that there are some, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but where it's more of a based on story. It's not the they don't tell the story from the manga. They just take the overall concept and then run with whatever they feel like in the anime. And I just don't know off the top of my head what I'm thinking of is.
Yeah, heck, Duke in the manga, Duke Devlin, like his father, his father's gone, and his father's gone. But in the anime, it's just, oh, you ruined Pegasus and my chance at having a game. So his backstory is far more interesting in the manga.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's for sure with the Yu-Gi-Oh one. I know that it's even the arcs that we get in the anime are much darker in the manga, from my understanding.
And in Mai versus Merrick in the manga, apparently Mai's being tortured throughout the duel, and she's not even close to winning. But in the anime, we see she actually has a shot. She steals the Winged Dragon of Ra. I personally prefer that version because it seems like it's somewhat trying to make Mai look better. Not amazing, but I'd still prefer it over just no, she's not doing anything.
Yeah. And I guess this would be more of a change between the English and the English dub and this original, because even the original anime is a lot darker because it's. I mean, yes, there's Shadow Realm stuff and different dimensions, but its big focus is on people legit dying or getting legs chopped off. I mean, that's the one I think of as um, oh god, it's Yugi
Arcana.
versus yeah with the saw blades, and it's what is it, dimension discs or
Dark
something?
energy discs.
Yeah, no. Then the manga in the original Japanese anime, they're saw blades going to
Yeah.
cut off their feet.
Yeah, but that makes a little more sense than we don't like Hinata, so we're not going to push her closer to Naruto. I forgive that a little bit more, as ridiculous as it sounds, though.
Yeah, because it was before anime became a more adult thing here in the US. So it was like, okay, we've got to make it kid friendly. Everything had to be kid friendly when it came to animation almost at
Yeah,
this
and
time.
speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, as in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh Arc V or Arc 5, whatever the hell you want to call it, apparently the ending to the anime is very, very bad. And then somebody posted after the manga ended, and someone typed, "It's like the anime and the manga were competing to see who could write the worst ending." I'm like, oh, that's not good. But now I'm kind of curious.
Oh wow. Yeah. The I think didn't um technically the Dragon Ball Super manga start after the uh anime technically if you count the movies because we had those the Battle of Gods movie come out before I think that anything really restarted, and that became the basis for the next stories that were told.
Oh, good. Let's see. The manga came out June 2020, and the anime came out, good lord, in June. Oh wow, they both came out at the same time around June 2015, July 2015. The anime came out 1 month after the manga.
Okay, so then yes, the movie came out before both then. So
Yes.
because I remember Battle of Gods was out before uh, that because that was like what jump started a new generation of Dragon Ball fans, I think.
Yeah, and we got the game Dragon Ball Battle of Z, and it was really, really bad. And I'm still upset about that.
Well, Daima comes out soon, so maybe it'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, Battle of Z. Why am I typing Battle of Z? Never mind. But you're right. It came out before the manga or the television series. So yeah, I'll give you credit for that.
Yeah, so that kind of set up a whole new thing. And again, it had been at that point, I guess, was it well, I think it was episode of Trunks that was the most recent thing. It was either that or the Bardock, father of Goku, was the most recent Dragon Balls thing that had come out anime wise in a long time.
Are we including the whole Vegeta meets his brother thing?
I completely forgot about that thing, but yeah, I guess that would be the before that.
Hey,
So,
I always liked it.
and I know he's canon now because don't they mention that? they think they should bring him to the tournament, and then
Maybe I don't remember that specific line, but I don't not I don't remember not remember it enough to tell you you're wrong on it. So who knows?
yeah, he's still yeah. But again, so we've seen it happen where the anime or animations, I guess, leads into the manga and allows for a new uh, story to be told.
Yeah. Heck, and everybody keeps telling me, why are you watching Black Clover the anime? Read the manga. Why are you people say, why do you watch Boruto the anime? Read the manga. And I know a lot of it's filler, but anime, they do exaggerate some stuff in the anime. Like people say, well, Asa doesn't yell as much in the manga. I'm like, well, yeah, well, of course, you're not able to audibly hear it, but I don't know. In some cases, I do feel like for comedic effect, they could change some stuff. And I don't think it's for the worst in some cases.
Yeah, for comedic purposes, stuff the written word doesn't always translate to uh, spoken word as well, but it also goes the opposite way, where stuff can be projected differently based on how it's inflected versus how you read it on the manga.
Yeah, like with Gintama, everybody tells me, "Oh, the anime's so funny. The voices are so funny. It's so cool." I don't recall anybody who ever says, "Oh, Gintama's good, but the manga's better." No disrespect to the manga, I just never heard anybody say the manga's better. Voices and comedic timing help make it.
Yeah, and again, you have to. Everybody reads at their own pace, so when it comes to the manga, it's like, okay, if I read really fast, then stuff that was supposed to be suspenseful may not be as suspenseful because I get to that part really quickly versus someone who's like watching the show. Usually that would be the end of an episode, and then you have to wait a week or two if you're watching as it premieres.
That being said, senior year of math class, a friend of mine was like hitting me, and I'm like, "Hey, you're a Naruto fan." Like, yeah, read this, and that's how I read Might Guy versus Madara. And I'm gonna be honest, at that point when it came to it, I never looked back. I'm just like, yeah, I'm reading the manga until the end.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I remember because I think Jabari and I were talking about the end of Naruto. I think it was freshman year of college when it officially ended. It was the freshman or sophomore year when the manga reached its conclusion. At least I
I
remember a
think
year
it was
before.
sophomore year because we were friends, and my Spanish teacher really liked Naruto, so we would talk about it.
Yeah, so I remember getting excited and looking forward to getting more, and then again being more of an anime fan, I was like, okay, this is fine. It's not the best ending, but it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, at the same time though, there is a thrill you get of reading the manga and being loyal to it. So the slightest change can hurt, but like we said before, changes can help. Help. Like so I've seen some manga drawings of characters I like, and they look good. They look acceptable. But in the anime, it's like, holy crap, these characters look so much more. I'm trying to find the best way to put this. They look so much more lively. I think that's part of the reason why manga just. Because, I'm not the biggest comic book fan, but I love the art style and the colors of it. It's gonna sound really dumb, but part of the reason I can't get into manga as much is because there's no color to it. Like 90% of it's just black and white.
Yeah, you get the cover art and the occasional full color page, but it's limited, and that's how they get it out every single uh time or every single week is that they make it that way.
I understand. I'm not shaming them for doing it that way. It's just a personal preference. And like we said before, censorship can be a big thing. Hey, I haven't talked that much about the Psyche K manga, but there is something where I'm like, holy crap, this is kind of scary.
Okay.
Well, first, like I talked about a couple of months ago, the whole is what type of people is Hyro into? Is he into guys, girls? Like what? I've talked before about why it made more sense that was a manga only thing. But there's an episode of the anime where Teruhashi is sick, and the whole class is kind of traumatized by it. If they're all sad about it for whatever reason, I'd be throwing a barbecue. But at the end, but during the anime episode, Psyche's like, okay, I have to stop this. He helps Teruhashi get better, and everything works out. In the manga, it gets so bad, and that one student is distressed about Teruhashi being sick that he climbs to the top of the roof, and Saiki has to stop him. You understand why the anime decided, let's cut that part out.
Yeah, that's a little much for this. I mean, uh, and she's if I remember correctly, I mean they do if I remember correctly, they do a sick episode, so I don't remember if it's for her or if it's Psyche who's sick, but
Well, technically, it's both of them. Twice in the same season. Yeah, that's not my personal favorite. Considering we've both said it's not a cliche we love, but twice in one season seems like a bit excessive.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely not the best cliche, especially when it's. I mean, here sitcom is probably a bit better than it would have been in like a romance anime. If it had been romance, it's like oh, then it would have been a lot more out there.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I had another Psyche K point, but it completely slipped my mind. But it just I don't know. Like I said, because at least when it comes to anime, and this is a point for filler, at least filler is a like, okay, we're gonna get to what we want to get to, but we're gonna give you some appetizers in between. Like, contrary to popular belief, I like a lot of Naruto's filler. I like the arc right after the Sasuke retrieval arc. I like 90% of the Pikochu Beetle arc. The ending is not fantastic. I like the arc where they're all running around trying to save the village and there are these letters. There's, I appreciate filler in some cases for that. Unfortunately, when you don't have filler and it feels like you're just dragging out the story, then it gets kind of tedious because when you read the Nisekoi manga, the story drags forever, and it gets to the point where I'm like, wow, I used to have a favorite, but now I don't care who wins. I just want the manga to have a satisfactory ending, and it doesn't. It doesn't. In some cases, I'd rather you just say, you know what, just give me filler because this is so boring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, filler. We're not saying that all filler is good because there are
No,
definitely bad ones. The one that comes to mind is the Mitsuki filler arc where he becomes the tiger monster in Naruto.
I rewatched that a couple of months ago, and to be honest, Richard, it's not that bad. It's somehow even worse.
Yeah, it feels like that was like a rushed in thing that they were doing because it's not there are definitely some weird choices made in that one and like I don't know, it feels like maybe Japan had a Tony the Tiger cereal commercial built into Naruto and they ran with it as an arc or something.
Oh God, yeah, it was pretty bad. I can't disagree.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some I want to go back. I remember there's a Kurenai arc that I remember being really good when I watched it on Toonami. There's one where they're on a prison boat that I remember being really good. It's like, so, and it allows the manga because pretty much by the time the first part of Naruto ended, they were caught up with the manga. So rather than have to go on constant hiatuses to let the manga get ahead, they created new content that kind of built and helped you understand the relationships between these characters at this point.
Exactly, and it was look. You and I, we don't talk about him specifically that much, but it's safe not to speak for you too much. We both love Naruto as a character, don't we?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, but isn't it nice to get, even though it's filler, to get stuff with Kiba, with Shino, with Tenten, and Rock Lee? Isn't it? That's how filler can help. The manga isn't always going to give us what we want, and people will say, "Oh, well, it's their character development's filler. It's not canon." I'm like, hey, if it's on my TV screen, I see it as canon, unless it's one of those weird dream fever episodes. But those are different.
Yeah. I mean, I could have found it really interesting had they kind of kept it as if the story had happened the way it did. So Naruto leaves right after the Sasuke retrieval arc. And then, but they do all the filler still so that you see what like what the rest of the Konoha Genin are going through and how it build up and end with the Chunin exams leading into Shippuden. If you combine it that way and watch it in that order, if they had subtracted Naruto, it could have been really interesting because you would have gotten understood how close this group of people had gotten while Naruto and Sasuke had left the village for an extended 2 years.
Exactly. And I will say, I feel when it comes to shows like Dragon Ball Super, I'm kind of feeling in a sense because I feel like a lot of people kind of have conflicting feelings on Dragon Ball Super, the anime. I personally love it despite the flaws it has, and I will fully
Mhm.
admit it has flaws. And a lot of people say, read the manga, read the manga. But then I hear stuff like, something happened with Goku and a sensu bean. So, and it's really terrible. Goku who has a sensu bean moment with another villain, or Vegeta does something really stupid. So in some cases, if they were to change that and make the characters better, I feel conflicted because I've been always been saying just do what the manga does. It's so much easier. But part of me is also like, if you can make it better, maybe go for it, but make sure it's better. Do not give me another Usegi. Do not Usegi drop this.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely understand that. I again, Super is one of those that I'm ready for it to come back and get its full anime, and maybe we'll do that once Daima completed. They'll announce that Super Part Two or Super Z, I don't know what they're going to call it at this point, is going to start premiering soon because I think there's enough. There's 2 or 3 arcs now that are completely out since the end of where the anime ended at this point. So that could be there's plenty of material now to go on for a little while at least.
Yeah, do you remember how many episodes Daima was supposed to go for, or is supposed to go for?
I think it's a 24. Maybe I think it may be weird. I think it may be 28 episodes. It's some, but I don't think it's that long from what I remember hearing.
Uh,
Um,
okay. According Dragon Ball Daima will consist of 20 episodes, apparently.
okay, so I knew it wasn't like it wasn't the 13 for a very short, but it wasn't a like year long season that we get with like a lot of uh shonen animes where they just keep going and change the intro once a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about different anime, I this might surprise you. I do a year. This was years ago. I got this. I still haven't picked it up, but I do have a copy of a volume of the fairy tale manga.
Okay.
Are there any differences? Anything that I might need to know? Because I picked up. I'm like, huh, maybe Richard would be more interested in this than I would.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't follow the manga fairy tale too much, so I know again, like all the shonen, there are filler arcs and stuff thrown in. With fairy tale, there's I think 1 or 2 arcs, but it's they focus more heavily on like here's a 5 episode mini arc or a 1 episode uh filler episode. It's just supposed to break up the time your time watching the anime between seasons or arcs.
All right. Based on what I'm seeing from what people have said, the people say they prefer the anime because apparently Fairy Tail's background music is like top tier.
Yeah, I do really enjoy. I enjoyed most of the openings as well for Fairy Tale. I actually got quite a few in my saved music. So
Yeah. And according to some of this, like the first part of the Fairy Tail anime is better than the manga, but then the manga gets better. I don't know specifically what went down with that, but who knows?
there's definitely some points where I can understand. I know that part of the reason the second hiatus that Fairy Tale went on after the I think it's the Tartarus arc, they was because he wanted to return to how it looked during the original part because he said that the second part of it got like even the animation got darker than he wanted to like just the color palette was darkened and he didn't care for it as much.
Yeah. Oh, here's something else. Apparently the manga is a lot more graphic with wounds and fan service.
Definitely with wounds, I know. I fan service, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, but people have also said that the anime stretches out the fights more and lets them breathe, which is cool. Oh, and also I'm going to try and pronounce these names as best as I can. Loxus and Tempester never happened in the manga.
Okay. I'd have to look that one up.
And also, there's somebody named Agnolia. Is that their name?
Agnologia.
Agnologia. Apparently, their backstory never happened in the manga either. So I feel like you've never brought up Agnologia before, so I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
They're a overarching villain for most of the series. I mean, I can go into detail, but I feel like it's one of those parts of the story that it's better just to watch it whenever you give it a chance.
I believe me, I am slowly getting there. But I don't know. I do find it interesting how the anime decides, well, we have these characters, let's give them a little more to work with because sometimes that does help. Just sometimes the manga doesn't throw out stuff for certain characters, and it makes things kind of sad because I'm like, man, I want to learn more about these characters, but I don't feel like I have a reason to because if this is all the manga's giving me, why should I care?
Yeah. Well, you kind of brought something up that I think is really important to discuss is fights in the manga versus anime. And I think for the most part, I think most people like the anime version of fights more because, as you said, a lot of times you get that chance to breathe. They can stretch it out and make it feel like a real battle where it's over in a chapter, but the way when you animate it and add the in between parts that take place between multiple panels in the story, it gets longer and you feel like the fight is going on longer. You can make characters that get killed or lose a fight in 2 or 3 panels last 10, 15 minutes in an anime.
Yeah. And the voice acting does help a lot with that, whether it's dubbed or subbed. But the dub versus sub argument, I think we could have a more civilized conversation about that another day.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. I do know that there are definitely parts that don't translate well when you translate it to English. So
Yeah, and going back to Yu-Gi-Oh for a second, yeah, did you know that Rex Raptor in the manga is actually a much nicer person than the anime?
really,
Yeah, but like by no means is he like helping old ladies across the street or anything. But there are moments throughout the manga where he like if something's going down and the gang needs help, Rex will run up and be the first person to be like, "Okay, I'll hold these guys off. You guys go do your thing." Like and even in the some of the video games where the manga's more the inspiration than the anime, he's shown to be much more courageous, still being him at times, but they make him a more likable person in the manga.
okay, versus like uh pretty much Weevil's sidekick because that's kind of how he's portrayed in the anime.
Yeah. Heck, in some of the video games, when you beat him, he'll say, "Hey, you better win the tournament." But in the anime, he'd just be like, "I don't care what happens to you." But in the games, he's like, "Hey, you beat me, so you need to win. You need to make us proud." I'm like, "Okay, I actually prefer that."
Yeah, I think it would be could have been a really that would be really interesting if like in Duelist Kingdom he could still have been taking advantage by Mai, but they been more focused. Like you kind of learn that Weevil did something to kind of how Weevil is throughout the anime, where he cheated and setting up how his fight with Yugi. He plants cards in Joey's deck, that sort of thing. He did something with against Rex to set him up to win.
Something like that. And I can't believe I'm about to give this series somewhat of a I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say a pass, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of credit, just a smidge. And this is the first, last, and only time I'll do it. From the little I've seen of the School Days manga, it's a lot different from the anime.
I assume it more closely follows the one of the better paths in the um, video game that I guess.
Believe it or not, no. No, it still goes down. Makoto's still doing all this horrible stuff and cheating on people, but apparently in the manga he's played very much like he almost feels bad, like the temptation is getting to him and it's making him feel sorry and he wants to make up for it and by the end it's too late by the end. But they seem to make him a much more sympathetic and three-dimensional character as opposed to what he is in the anime where look I'm trying my hardest to be respectful about this but he sounds he sounds almost bored in the anime, which makes me go, are you voice actors being held against your will? You do not sound like you're having fun with these characters.
And with it being the school days anime, it's quite possible that they were held against
that,
their will.
That is true. So, and heck, even we've even I was gonna stay on this too long, but when it comes to, it's not even filler, but anime exclusive characters are all the more interesting because in Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions, the two of the main characters. Two of the main characters are not actually in the manga. They're completely anime only. One of them doesn't do anything. Her name is Kumin. If they removed her from the show, I don't think I would have noticed. She's not bad. She's just not plot. She's not important to the plot. But Nibutani's also an anime exclusive character, and and while she doesn't have that many stories, if she wasn't around, the story would suffer. Because she's hilarious, and two, I don't know. They did a good job with her to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I want to read the manga because without her, it's just not as interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I was trying to think of anything with One Piece for this, but I know that of like the big animes that has less filler, and I mean, there's a couple filler characters and filler episodes usually to lead into one of their movies, which can be helpful for you to understand what's going on leading into something like that. But
yeah,
it's
sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's with One Piece, there really isn't that much filler because there's so much content in and of the story itself. There's a reason it's almost 15,000 chapters and or 1,500 chapters and almost 1,200 episodes of the story. So,
oh, goodness. You remember Hyde from Zatch Bell, correct?
Which one is that? Sorry.
He's one of the first Momoto who shows up with his partner, and they have wind magic.
Okay, he's the one with he has the orange hair that spikes off.
That's correct. Yeah, he's not he's not introduced in the manga, not technically.
He's a background character, if I remember correctly, right?
Well, that's the funny thing, because the anime introduces him, and he's supposed to be Zatch's rival. And we've talked before, they do this story of him and his partner don't really get along, but when they finally start to think about each other and care about each other, they start getting stronger, only for them to disappear completely. Yeah, they're anime-only characters until the author said, you know what? Let me put them in the manga, and they show up later. They're background characters at that point, and it doesn't go great. But I thought they could have been interesting characters. I'm not sad that they were introduced. I'm more sad they didn't do anything. So I have to give the anime a little bit of a pass for that.
Yeah, because they come back. That's the thing, and you get that kind of buildup of they're starting to get along and work more as a partnership, and then they never come back at that point. So it's like it feels like that should be a filler that either he comes back as either a major villain or he's already sacrificed. Or I'd say he comes back and is disappears during an arc leading into Zatch having to defeat someone.
Or hell, just introduce a filler villain that he takes out. I don't know, something. Because they had cool moments, and it's like I've said before, they weren't originally in the manga, but I do give them a pass because it's like I liked this character enough.
Yeah, they were a good kind of punk villain kind of thing. I'm trying to think of how to put it, delinquent-esque at the start, and then they grow to start kind of caring about each other, and then eventually, I mean, again, they have to disappear. There's not much you can do. That's the story is Zatch is becoming the Demon King, the Momoto King.
Yeah, he's convincing everybody to be a kind king, and by that point, he's convinced half the Momoto. Sure, we'll be kind kings. So, I guess Zatch winning makes sense, but if somebody else had won but vowed to be a kind king, I doubt the story would have changed that much.
Yeah, as long as, or it could have gotten really dark and had someone win who's like, I'm just going to be a complete dictator. Everybody has to listen to exactly what I say, and I will kill everybody else who doesn't.
It should have been Victorine. I guess part of me does want to give more manga a chance. Like we've said before, we prefer anime for the most part, but there are manga out there where it's like I want to get through the Soul Eater manga, see what needs to be done. Hell, had we gotten through it, I think our Soul Eater character video would have been a little bit would have been drastically different. Better or worse, I don't know, but I want to give more manga a chance because I feel like it's kind of in some ways our job.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I should find some manga to read and give me something that would be interesting versus having watched something. I don't know if I would want to do one of the shows I've already seen or do something that I'm interested in but hasn't got an anime. I'm kind of leaning that way. It's like maybe give me some build up or something that never finished, like Plunderer would be possibly good because I hear the manga is really good.
Yeah, and apparently even shows like Mr. Villain's Day Off, people have been telling me, dude, read the manga. I'm like, how much more can I get from manga of a slice of life show like that? Whatever, I like the anime, so yeah, I'll get some volumes of the manga. I don't know how much different it's going to be though.
You're gonna get it. It's gonna be completely different, and you're gonna love it just as much.
I got the first 3 volumes a couple of days ago.
So you're planning to start soon?
Yes. And I also got Windbreaker's manga, but apparently the manga is much further ahead than the anime, and I'm getting impatient.
Yeah, I'm debating. Maybe Blue Lock would be a good one for me, but that one I know the anime is coming out soon, so
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. I'm now remembering what I want to talk about, but in relation to Psyche K.
okay.
Apparently, Shiho's attempted suicide, the manga, is far worse than in the anime. I'm like, oh no, that don't make me sadder about it.
Oh God.
She's alive and well, but like the moment it's starting to happen, you feel so much worse than you did in the games and the anime.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I can see them making it darker because if they made it any darker in the game, they would have to make it a rated M game overall.
Isn't it already a rated M game?
I thought it was teen, but I guess
no. I feel like it's rated M. I don't know. I could be wrong, but at the same time.
No, it's Persona 5. Oh, no, why is it showing? Okay, I got so confused because I don't know if you can read that, but that's showing up as E there.
That doesn't.
But then I read the next part, and you're right, it is M.
Oh, somebody at Walmart.
Yeah.
Somebody at Walmart's getting fired. But another reason why I haven't checked out the Persona 5 manga is. And look, this is just from the few screenshots I've seen, and admittedly a couple of the chapters. One of the things I love about the game, the Persona 5 game, is when it comes to romancing someone, you can pick who you want, and it doesn't affect the story too much. But from what I've seen in the manga, it's canon that every girl likes Joker, and to me, that's not nearly it. That ruins it for me a little bit. It kind of ruins their characters for me.
Yeah, I mean, for someone like yourself who's really only played Persona 5 and its games, maybe the mangas for the like Personas 1 through 4 would be something more up your alley to give you a chance to understand where the series started and leading up into this part. But again, I know you like these characters specifically, so
yeah. And I do have Persona 3 sitting around somewhere, and I just haven't touched it for whatever reason. But just I understand some cases where it's just why they're like, let's keep our characters as characters, and because all of them having crushes on him kind of ruins it for me, especially the people who decide, oh, I'm going to romance all of them. I'm like, please don't do that.
Isn't that lead to one of the bad endings?
It leads to a bad scene, but not a bad ending.
Oh,
it's not a good look for one of our favorite characters, but that could be another list for another day.
okay. Okay, that's good to know.
But look, anime, manga, just make it entertaining. Changes have to be made from manga to anime in some cases, but as long as they make sense and I'm entertained, I can live with it. But I also think in some cases, like I've said, you need to separate yourself if you're working on this, because simply not liking a character or over like I never did talk about fully, but that bothered me. Just, oh, we don't like Hinata, so we're not going to do that much with her. I'm like, but that's not what Kishimoto did. You should honor his work properly.
Yeah, if that's especially as I said, if you're not gonna change the ending because of the changes you've made to a story, then it doesn't make sense to make the little changes that you're making. Because if you're not gonna put Naruto with Sakura or something as the end of the anime, then why make the changes at all?
Yeah, but you could also argue if they went through it with Naruto and Sakura in the anime, that might cause a bigger explosion.
Very true, but
Especially since the story continues with Boruto. You get what I mean?
yeah, but I'm just saying that if they were already going to lean to make the changes, if that was where they plan to end everything, they can do what they want technically. But if they but choosing to both try to honor but also make these changes, it doesn't feel right. It feels like you have committed to making some sort of big change and then pull
I
back.
guess my stance is if you're gonna make changes, just be respectful about it, because this didn't because after reading everything I read, I'm like, wow, I kind of it made me a little annoyed for the rest of the day. I'm just like, huh, that was kind of scummy. Now, like I said, in some cases, like Usegi drop up, like, hey, thanks anime for not continuing because you would have ruined this. You would have ruined this for me forever.
Yeah.
But is there anything else?
No, nothing I can think of.
All right, should we address the next couple of weeks before we fully sign off?
I think so. So
You're leaving first.
yeah, so both of us are going to be going on much needed vacations. So uh, this will be our last video probably till the end of October, beginning of November, sometime in that range, depending on when we both get back and have time again to film another video.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks off to recharge our batteries. I do have some. Admittedly, one video I've done on my own is already ready. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to put it up. But the podcast itself is going on hiatus for a couple of weeks, so just try not to miss us too much.
Yeah, we'll be back. It's just, yeah, we're both going on extended vacations, is pretty much what is happening. And I think his will definitely lead to probably some new ideas when he gets back.
Yeah. We're oh boy. But now, are we ready to close out?
I believe we are.
All right, so ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries, anybody, what are some differences you've noticed between manga and anime? Any changes you feel like ruined the story? Any changes you feel like, oh, I actually like this better? Or stories that the anime and the manga are completely different, like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh to an extent, just anything.
Yeah, and how do you feel about when these major changes occur? Do you feel like anime should try its best to be 100% the manga? Do you think they should adapt what they have to adapt? Do you think that they should just change whatever they feel like to make it as much as entertaining as the anime can possibly be?
Exactly. And if you want me to talk about the School Days manga more, no.
Yeah, and I'm never gonna do it, so.
And yet you watched the first episode, even though I told you it was a bad idea, so you're not good at listening to begin with. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we'll see you... Actually, I can't say next time, but we'll see you down the road. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.